The design industry has changed more in the past 5 years than in the previous 2 decades. Today, we're going to unpack how technology, social media, and shifting client expectations have transformed the way creatives work, communicate, and create. From in-person collaboration to photography, craftsmanship, and professional credibility. The conversation explores what it really means to practice design today, and it is a practice. This is a candid conversation about design after 2020, the rise of digital culture, evolving client behavior, and why experience still matters more than visibility. I sat down with designer Amy Courtney, and together we examine how dramatically the design industry has shifted since 2020. 2020 was a turning point, and what those changes mean for designers, clients, and the creative process itself. What began as a necessity during the pandemic has evolved into a permanent shift into how projects are managed, communicated, and perceived. The conversation opens with how in-person collaboration has largely been replaced by screens, emails, and digital presentations. While technology has made certain aspects of design more efficient, it has also introduced new challenges. Endless email threads over reliance on links and screenshots, and a growing disconnect between how spaces are discussed and how they're actually experienced. Both ideas reflect on the loss of face-to-face interaction and how it has altered everything from client relationships to decision-making, and especially now when pricing has gotten completely out of control in addition to inflation and tariffs and scarcity. It's getting more challenging. And even with the new AI tools being provided, those challenges are going to consist. So how do you adapt? How do you overcome? Another central theme is the difference between designers and tastemakers. And boy, this is a big one. Amy and I really dive into this because it's so important. The conversation closes with a reflection on credibility, creativity, and the responsibility designers have to guide clients honestly in a culture driven by speed and visibility, and argues for a return to thoughtful process, clear communication, and design rooted in real-world understanding. It's a lot. And you're going to hear it all right after this. At the highest level of design, the absolute best specifying designers, architects, landscape designers are all highly focused on the technology and performance of products and materials today. You have to, because the products you specify for your projects have to perform and they have to last. That's one of the reasons why I am so proud to be working with TimberTech. Their focus on the technical renaissance of synthetic decking is literally changing the conversation about innovation and performance. It pulls focus on 3 priorities homeowners have and expect from the products their designers and architects specify for their luxury projects. 1, aesthetics must match the overall design and fit visually. 2, durability and maintenance. I've told you about my board flipping stories from my own wood decks. Clients not only want beauty, but they want ease and ease of use, and they want it to last for decades. 3, sustainably made. Clients are more conscious of the environment now, and they want the same of their materials. TimberTech hits each one of these elements with a product that not only meets expectations, they exceed them. TimberTech makes a synthetic decking that looks just like wood, color and embossed wood grain for a natural appearance. Their composite decking is technologically superior, as it has been created to last for decades, and it's manufactured with up to 85% recycled material. Their advanced PVC, vintage, and landmark collections have a Class A flame spread rating, making these products an amazing choice for wildfire-prone areas which unfortunately continues to grow on the risk map. Check the show notes for more information about this and to find the nearest showroom or lumberyard where you can find TimberTech, or you can check them out directly, timbertech.com. That is my new favorite quote.
Yeah.
Let's see where this takes us.
Yeah. Let's just do it. Let's go.
It's funny too because I still think that when because you've been through the process now, you've seen how I set this up, and you can attest to this, that I don't send out questions in advance. And by the way, I've never done that. In the 13 years that I've been doing the show, I've never sent out questions in advance because I think that would be incredibly boring, to be honest with you.
Yes.
You know what I
And
mean?
people digress too. And then you get all self-conscious. Oh God, I just jumped off topic. Do we have enough time to
Yeah.
digress and
Yeah.
then jump back? Or do we just take this where it needs to go? So yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
no, and as you can probably attest to, it's I also do a ton of research. So there's a ton of things that I want to talk to you about. But I find it interesting too because, over time, and especially the last 5 years in design and architecture have changed so dramatically. Like so incredibly dramatic has been this shift because if you think about it, in 2020, we hadn't even yet entered the pandemic until March.
right.
How's the business changed for you? See what I mean? See, it never stops, the pinging.
Yours.
How has it changed for you since March of 2020?
So the thing that has changed the most is just like the in-person meetings.
Mm,
And to be honest, like I'm getting a little frustrated with it because I really do like to meet in person, especially if it's a local client. Why don't I just come over, look at the fabric samples in person? Like we're still doing samples. We're still doing, we're not just showing links on websites. Even though now we need a link for almost everything. Clients want to do a deep dive on products. And I think it's maybe people are just like more connected to their devices. I actually like over COVID, I don't know if it had to do with my pregnancy or my screen time, but I had to start wearing my glasses 100% of the time. Whereas before COVID, I only had to wear them for computer and TV. And now I can't live without them. So I don't know if it was the pregnancy. That can change your eyes, but also I think that people are just like way more attached to their screens, and I am too. Like you were talking about earlier, like can you put your phone away for 1 hour? It's really hard, especially like during the workday. So I think definitely like the in-person meetings have changed a lot, which honestly is convenient at times, but the long, long emails are too much. Like this back and forth. Now I wrote in blue, now you're writing in red, and now you're writing in green bold. It's like enough, enough. We need to jump on a call or meet in person. It can't just be all, keyboard warrior designing.
listen, to your point, I think you're absolutely right. The communication itself has changed, and I'm curious. Do you ever talk? Have you ever spoken to your mom, an interior designer,
Yeah,
about the industry and about what it was like when she got started?
please. Yes. Absolutely, all the time. We talk about it all the time because my mom is somewhat retired now and just an artist, and she's just like fascinated by the way that we do things. The Canva boards. Like there were no mood boards. The mood boards were like rips out of a magazine, if that. Clients also weren't doing a lot of research. They were just hiring a designer for their portfolio and saying, I love that. That's what I want. Now I get clients who reach out to me, and like one of the first things I ask them if I feel like our design styles aren't really aligning is like, why did you reach out to me in the best way, in the nicest way possible? You looked at my website, what really resonated with you? Or are you just getting quotes? You really want to know if somebody's aiming for you or is just looking for quotes or looking for like the least expensive designer they could find. Or it's word of mouth. And they're like, my friend really enjoyed working with you. I'd love to work with you too. Um, you know, did you look at my website or are you looking for me to just like turn your Pinterest board into a reality? Because that's what I hear so many times. It's like, I know what I want, I don't know how to do it. So clients know more what they want now.
So juxtapose that to when your mother started in the industry, and
Yeah.
not even that far along long ago, there was a time when you had your portfolio, which maybe you had, even 10 years ago, designers would maybe shoot one or two projects, like the really important projects, the groundbreaking projects that they had. Maybe they would shoot those professionally. And we weren't really shooting anything with our phones ourselves. So
Hmm.
you had all this whole body of work that nobody ever really saw,
Yeah.
right? Now, because of the way magazines are, where they want you to, in many cases, shoot your own projects because they no longer have photographers on staff. So they want you to shoot your own projects. You have to shoot your own projects, but you're shooting all your projects. But there was a time when a designer, when you did a proposal, when you put an image board together, a vision board, when you put a lookbook together for a client, where you're outlining what their design is going to be. Now it's so easy that anybody can do it.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't know how people publish like non-professional photos. I think that's like the old school designer in me. It's like I have a hard time posting on Instagram because I can't post an iPhoto picture. I just can't. I have to post a professional, I have to put up a professional picture. It has to be perfect. Um, and yeah, I'm just like in awesome times about like some of these influencers who post these iPhone pictures that look like really well composed. I'm like, how did they do that? But they're winning, you know? It's like they're climbing the ladder because they are like posting on a regular basis, posting every day, or they just have the means to photograph a ton of projects. Whereas like I have to be very choosy about whose project I photograph. I take on like 15 projects a year. That would be $150,000 in photography if I photographed every single one of them. And that just goes to the photographer.
So the average photography is 10 grand per project.
If you think about, so the projects that I'm working on now in Connecticut are larger. So the project that I just shot was like 8,000 square feet, and we touched every space in the house. So I wanted to photograph. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was a huge financial undertaking. I had a stylist, I had all my assistants on board. We had to order accessories beforehand because they were moving from a small 2,000 square foot house to an 8,000 square foot house, and they didn't have accessories to fill it up. So it is like, luckily, they kept a lot of them, but it was, the hours that you sink in. The photographer obviously is the most expensive, the stylist, the flowers are really expensive. And so you do have to be selective um, about what you'll shoot. So, but I do want to shoot all of my projects. I love them all. But some of them, it's just like an iPhone picture and a story is just going to have to do.
Well, what's interesting too is, let's say you shoot a project and your photographer shoots the kitchen a certain way, their aesthetic, their eye. Then you go to have it covered by a trade pub, and they say, well, the way that they shot the kitchen doesn't really show the Sub-Zero Wolf appliances or the Monogram appliances, and they're a major sponsor of the magazine, and we want that. No, I mean, have you
Yeah,
been
yeah.
have you been faced
No,
with that before?
no. But if I was, I'd probably have to walk.
You
And just,
would.
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would be worth it. it really depends on, I've never been faced with that before, luckily. Um, I we definitely get feedback when a project is turned down. It's like, we're a traditional home and we're really looking for something a little more traditional. So please come back. We love this project. So things that we really can't change about the project. AD turned down a project because we had a replica sofa in it. I was like, oh, it killed me. But so those are things that you can't change. You just learn from them and not learn from them. Like, I'm not going to go ahead and do a traditional project now to try to get it into traditional home, but you learn about like what these publications are looking for. So when I am shooting a project, I'm thinking in my head about who who this could fit in with. So I have, targets.
The project that was denied by AD, was that a celebrity client?
No, no.
So here's the question
Yes.
for you. Do you
Yeah.
ever wonder if that was a celebrity client, would they still have turned it down for that?
Probably not. Probably
Yeah.
not. They
Yeah.
wouldn't have, maybe they just wouldn't have called it out as a replica sofa, you know, or that maybe they just wouldn't have given the sofa because sometimes you read articles from Architectural Digest and they're not calling out each piece, you know. It was definitely a prominent piece in the room. It was the only piece in the room, um, that was that like that name, but it was from Eternity Modern.
Yeah, but don't you think it's a little disingenuous? And I'll frame it a different way.
Hmm.
I think 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago,
Yeah.
design design was more of a privilege than a right. But I think with everything that we've been through, going backwards from the immense amount of chaos and tariffs that we've seen this year, back to the pandemic, to 08, 09, right? Just a number of issues societally. Design, good design is a right, not a privilege. Everyone should have access to good design, and it doesn't mean that it has to be so expensive. Like, look, I'll be honest with you. My favorite sofa in the world is the Mahjong. I love that thing. I would never spend $40,000 for a sofa. I just won't. Um, I wouldn't be able to enjoy it if I did.
Right.
But
Yeah.
different budgets with different clients, right? To
Hmm.
to find a replica, not a dupe, but
Exactly.
to find a less expensive option, I think is part of the superpower of incredible designers.
Yes, absolutely. And that sofa, by the way, was not a dupe. It's a replica. So they have it's the Mario Bellini name. They bought the licensing rights to it. It's not from Interior Icons where they're doing dupes, straight dupes. Um, so yeah, I was like, oh, okay. It's like the same proportions. It's the same frame. It's just new. So it would have cost us $50,000 to find one on First Dibs and then reupholster it in the sunbrella fabric that we needed to use because it was a sunroom and we needed sunbrella. So there were like very intentional decisions behind that sofa choice. You know,
Interior Icons, I'm not familiar with them.
I believe, I mean, it's not right for me to say they're dupes, but I'm pretty sure they are. I'm pretty sure they are.
Well,
But they have some, we use them a lot for like staging projects, where we
let's
want those iconic pieces that people will walk in and recognize. And they're obviously not going to put a five or $10,000 chair in a model unit, but they want recognizable pieces. So we will, it's not below me.
let's put the disclaimer out there. The views espoused by the guests of Convo by Design are their own and not. I'm not familiar with Interior Icons, and I say
You're like,
that
I'm going to check them out.
I am gonna check them out,
Yeah.
because in all seriousness, there's an Instagram profile, an Instagram account. What is it called? Design within dupe, or
Oh, so
I'm
funny.
gonna I'm forgetting the actual name of it. But if you go there, and I hate this because it's anonymous, so you don't know who's responsible for it, but they call out all of these well-known designers saying, "Oh, well, here's so and so and they knocked off so and so again."
Mhm.
And they show the two pictures of what the original looks like versus what
Yeah.
the designer did. And in a lot of cases, they're incredibly similar, but don't ascribe to the legal definition of a ripoff. You know,
Yeah.
they didn't steal the design; they changed it enough to be materially different. You know, but here's the thing: as a designer, it's got to be frustrating. There is no 10% rule or 30% rule. You know, sometimes I people will say to me, "Well, we changed it 30%, so legally we're fine." It's like, you know what? Legally, you're not.
Hmm.
You, your opinion is, and that's great. You
Right.
might still have to defend it
Right.
as an intellectual property case, which legal cases are just running amok now. As a designer, how do you navigate that?
Well, so luckily we're not selling anything. Do you mean like if are you talking about like replicating a piece of furniture and then
So there's two things to that.
or just like putting our name on it saying we were not inspired by this, but it's like
There's
so obvious that you were inspired by it. It's
there's two
nice to give the
sides.
designer credit, right?
Yeah, well, there's two sides to this issue, right? One side is if you're a designer who now has a line and you created your own line of product
Yeah.
and that's what it is, and then it's very, very similar to something that somebody else did, or that you're working on behalf of your client and you specify product for that project, and then someone says, "Oh, well, that design looks just like so and so's design." It's like, well, I can't be responsible for that.
You can't be responsible for sure if it really just like came from the top of your mind. But what I try to tell clients is like when they come to me with a picture and go, I want my room to look exactly like this. I'm obsessed. I want my room to look exactly like this. I'm like, I get really uncomfortable when they do that, and it doesn't happen a lot, but it is uncomfortable because I'm like, well, you're asking me to duplicate another designer's design. Let's change it. Let's like, I like the idea of it. I like the colors. But like, how can we make it you? So I'll try to, push them to try to make it you and use me for who I am. You hired a designer. So don't you want something unique? And that usually works out. But if it's like they come up with a Pinterest image and they're like, I found this House of Hackney wallpaper. I'm in love with it. And I'm like, so am I. But it's in a different room. It's like, it's fine. But yeah, the images and trying to like get your clients to stay unique and try to keep my work unique, that can be a little difficult. But usually it ends up being like an arm and a leg what they love. So
When back to the photography for a
yeah,
moment,
yeah.
the reason why I'm going back to this is because it is such an important issue right now. And
Hmm.
again, back to even 10 years ago, you know, you look at your iPhone now, the camera quality on modern phones, Android, iPhone, the camera quality is just incredible. In most cases, the camera quality is greater, the lenses are higher quality than what many would have purchased, you know, from a DSLR 10 years ago. It's fascinating
Yeah.
how incredible these cameras have become. So shooting them oneself, if you have the eye for it, is one of those things where it's an incredible value. Now, here's the question. So you style the project, you professionally shoot the project.
Hmm.
Do you, and not a judgment call, but I found two schools of thought here. Do you or does your photographer edit out cans, outlets, switches, cables?
Yeah.
Do you do that?
Outlets sometimes. Cans, no, no. Uh, like a smoke detector, heck yeah. out of there, out of there. But like cans, no. I think that, that's part of the architecture. Outlets, if I'm seeing a outlet and it's screwing up my wallpaper, get it out of there. Um, but if it's a beautiful outlet in a kitchen, and also like outlets in kitchens, those stay. Those stay. It's actually nice for people to reference, and show clients like if they're like, "Oh, well, I don't want any outlets showing." And I'm like, "Oh, look at this kitchen I did. Here are some outlets. This is what it's going to look like." Oh, that's great. So it's really nice to have work where I can show people reality, right? And say it's going to be fine. But if there's an outlet or if there are cords hanging, yeah, cords got to go. Um, or would tape them, you know. I think taping them is helpful too. But we don't do a lot of editing.
Do you know what I noticed too in much of the photography from your projects is that it appears that you go with natural light.
Hmm.
That there isn't a great deal. Like I will look at some of the projects and I don't see any inset lights. I don't see any cans. I don't see um, the fixtures themselves don't appear to have the lights on. And I'm curious if that is the case. How do you walk your clients through the lighting plan, which I think is such an important part of design today? I was at CEDIA Expo last year, earlier this year, rather, September of 25, in Denver. And it was just incredible to see what the integrators are doing, Lutron and Crestron, and what people are doing with lighting now. Lighting has become, I think you're going to notice it next year if you haven't already. But it's the next revolution.
Absolutely. So when we work on a lighting plan, we'll have like layers of different lights that you'll use at like different times of day or for different purposes. So, like in a kitchen, we'll have the recess lights. Those are your work lights. Then we'll have under cabinet lights. Um, those are also for work, but also it's really nice to have those lit if you're having a party, dim them down, just like kind of highlight the marble. And then typically, like everybody loves island pendants, like whenever I'm designing a kitchen, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get to the island pendants. I'm so excited. So then we have those as well. And those are like the jewelry, right? So they don't really need to be like these intense work lights. Um, so so that's like the typical layering for a kitchen. In a living room, you have again like your recess lights. We're talking mostly like new construction, right? Because I live in a 1930s house. I do not have recessed lights. I have to deal with, I have my sconces, which are lighting my living room, and then you have your table lamps and such. So typically you'll have like recessed lights, then you'll have lights, um, your floor lamps, your reading lamps, which I love. Um, I also love picture lights where you can put picture lights in. I I adore them. So in new construction, I try to get picture lights in. Even on like bookshelves, you could do picture lights too. So you can really set the mood for the room at different times of day, and they all have different switches, and they should all have dimmers. So I'll, suggest different layers of lighting. And then, if you don't like picture lights, you could do wall washers. Wall washers are very cool. And I'm sure you saw those at the show.
You are listening to my conversation with designer Amy Courtney. We'll be right back. If you've listened to the show for any amount of time, you've heard me say this, that the most important word in the design industry is service. Product is important, price is important, selection is important, but stellar service is the premier idea that can make all the difference in the success of a project, any project. How design professionals like you demand great service and your favorite brands in one place with expert, knowledgeable, and non-commission sales professionals. It's really important. It means that their only incentive is your satisfaction. Pacific Sales, Kitchen and Home, a Best Buy company, has just that with over 60 years of experience in Southern California. Pacific Sales is your destination for exploration, advice, and inspiration. Now, you have the Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home team to help you and offer their Pro Rewards program, which is a trade program unlike any you have experienced before. Earn 3% in Best Buy gift cards, e-gift cards, or 2.5% in rewards checks for every qualified and delivered sale. In addition to special trade pricing, exclusive offers, access to exclusive special events, and so much more than I could possibly tell you about here. And the cherry on top is access to exclusive builder trade incentives from top brands and the stellar service, again, from a company that has been serving the industry for over 60 years. Terms and conditions apply to the Pro Rewards program and builder trade incentives. So visit a Pacific sales expert at a showroom today for full details and to learn how you can unlock additional savings and benefits. Don't miss out on the opportunity to work with the best of the best. Visit Pacific Sales Kitchen and Home today and elevate your projects to new heights. The Design Hardware Showroom is a space where specifiers can go and find an incredible selection of high-end faucets, luxury tile, natural stone, wood floors, and bespoke hardware, and so much more. Select products are presented in a holistic manner, strategically arranged to stimulate creativity and transition your vision from the conceptual stage to a fully realized space. You will find everything you're looking for, even the products by brands you didn't know you didn't know. Surprise and delight. Am I right? All under one roof on 3rd Street in Los Angeles, just up the street from the Grove. Conveniently located, free parking available. Stop by to find inspiration, collect samples, get expert advice, and tackle everything on your specification list all in one place. Visit them online at designhardware.com, at Design Hardware and Flooring on the socials, or in the real world, 6053 West 3rd Street in Los Angeles. You know what's funny is I wish I did. I only had a few minutes really to go look at things. I was manning the podcast studio
Oh,
in the lobby of the convention center, and it was
oh, I
so
saw
amazing.
those. I saw those on your feed.
It was
Yeah.
amazing. I'd never done the show from a shout out to CEDIA and CIX. I'd never done the show from inside a VW ID Buzz before.
Hmm.
Or in any vehicle for that matter. So we did the whole show for 3 days from inside of an ID Buzz, which was just fun.
Cool.
Um,
I'm sure it was exciting to talk to people in person too, because you
oh
do so
yeah,
much online.
yeah. But back to the
Yeah.
main idea. Sorry, back to growing up in your history. So your father was also in the industry.
Yeah. So my dad is a master carpenter, basically. He's a real craftsman. His job, though, career-wise, he was a boat builder for 20, 30 years. He out of high school, his mom said, I'll give you money to go to college. And he said, no, I want to buy a boat and I want to work on my boat. And she let him because she's Italian and wanted him to stay home. His dad, my grandfather passed away when my dad was 10. So she was like, sure, you don't have to go anywhere. You could just stay home, George. And he did. He worked. I mean, my dad is self-taught. He's a genius. He can do anything. He can build a house. He worked on custom yachts and ferries at Directors Shipyards in Mamaroneck. That was his job all of my upbringing. And he worked in, all different phases on the boats. He did electrical, he did, carpentry, everything. So at home, our home life, um, my parents were flipping homes growing up. That was my mom, she's an interior designer. My dad had the boat building job, but on the side, they bought homes, renovated them, sometimes while we were living in them. We would move in at a certain point. So we actually lived in all of the houses that they were flipping. And then we would move and we lived all over New Rochelle. We stayed in the same school system and just bopped around in New Rochelle. So I watched, I watched construction from a very early age. I feel like the first time I was able to pick up a drill, I just was like, I knew exactly what I was doing. Like I just, and still like around the house, um, my husband knows that like all of the handy projects are mine, mainly because I just love doing them. So I grew up, surrounded by construction, carpentry. Another thing my dad did when we were younger, which I don't think is normal, but he would build, uh, a homemade kite in our basement out of wood pieces, like scrap wood pieces, and like black garbage bags. And he would staple it all together and he would build like 6 or 8 foot kites. And we would bring them to the park and set them off. And like the same day they would break. He's like, we're setting them off to break. Don't worry when it goes down head first and it shatters into a million pieces. But yeah, he was just, I mean, he's still doing that for us now. Made us our own puzzles. He'd be like, "What do you want me to make you on the jigsaw? I can make it for you." So we just grew up surrounded by that. Um,
There is so much to unpack here. Okay, so two two ideas. One, that being said, what did you learn about your upbringing and from your father with regard to how you engage
mhm,
with the trades and how you interact with your clients insofar as what's possible versus what's probable? And the flip side to that is how has that changed your behaviors? Let's say when you're on a project and the GC comes in and treats you like the designer.
mhm. So I do know a lot about construction, and I don't really walk into job sites with that on my sleeves. I kind of walk in and they don't know anything about my past unless they've done research on me. And then
Which they haven't, which they
slowly
haven't.
they start learning. Yeah, slowly they start picking up on like, oh wow, she actually does know what she's talking about. Um, and with clients too, and I feel like just like my parents were educators to me, I'm an educator to my clients too, and I love teaching them things and I love walking them through the process. So I feel like I got a lot of that from my parents. Just, instead of just saying, it's like that because that's what it's supposed to look like. It's like I always come with like a whole reason behind it. And I think my clients appreciate that. So they like come out of the come out of our experience like knowing a lot more about design, construction, and also my assistants who work with me. Like, I always say like this is a learning firm. This is a learning firm. And I think they really appreciate that, and it sets like it makes it a much more relaxed environment, because they can ask more questions, and the more questions you ask, the more you know. And so they're learning a ton too. And so, I learned a lot from my parents, but then I also learned a lot, just out of curiosity. That's kind of like how my dad taught himself everything that he knows. I learned a lot about curiosity because just growing up with parents that were in the field definitely did not mean I knew everything. And that was enlightening. Like out of college, when I started working, I'm like, wow, I probably only know like 20%, whereas I thought I knew 100%. And I'm still learning too. And luckily, the contractors that I work with, I work with them a lot and I have relationships with them, um, over the last like 10 years. And so they respect me. But it is interesting when I meet someone new and they're like, you're just the designer. And it's like, No, no. I worked for an architecture firm for a very long time. My dad is, can could probably build this house better than you. And my mom is an interior designer who is like an encyclopedia. My mom literally knows every specification. I'll call her. I'm like, Mom, what's the height? What height should this be? And so then I absorb it all. And so then I'm the next phase of the walking interior design encyclopedia. And now my husband is picking up on things. He knows like counter height's 36 inches. Like I'm like, I'm so proud.
That is hilarious. By the way, again, so much to unpack here. I love that approach. I really do. I think we're in this era where it is a Dunning-Kruger effect era where you have those who don't know much professing to know everything. Um, I think that started with social media and the age of the influencer coming out and saying things that, well, here's how they like to do things, so it must be right because which is complete BS.
Yeah.
That's and that has kind of seeped into our industry. And look, as a podcaster, as somebody who has a show, I'm not a podcaster. I do a podcast. I'm a journalist.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of research on everything that I talk about. But in an age now where I think it's kind of the same thing. Give me your take on this. It's kind of the same thing where you as an interior designer, you did the work, right? You went to school, you had your basic knowledge growing up, then you went to school, you became a designer, you understand how design works.
Mhm.
Then there's the designer who is really a decorator. Nothing wrong with decorators,
Mhm.
but they did their house, they did their guest house, or they did their whatever, and then they said, "Hey, my friends love it, so I'm going to go be a designer." To me, that's like where you have now many designers or former designers who come out and start podcasts, and they're talking about what the industry should and shouldn't be doing. There's so much noise out there, and it's so confusing for clients because they're like, well, this person said this, or other designers who want to learn how to do the craft better, but they're learning from a podcast or a consultant from someone who used to be a designer, but isn't. It's like, well, if you were a great designer, why aren't you still a designer instead of hosting a show? How do you separate from the noise?
Well, I think that I like to politely call those people they're tastemakers, right? That's the new term. That's the new polite term to say they're not designers, right? They're tastemakers. So either they're going to need someone behind them who can, deliver all of the technical materials to a project, um, or they're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I think the mistake making is important and natural. Um, but luckily, I'm not at the point where like my clients are deciding between me and a tastemaker, like a famous tastemaker, where what I'm competing against are like designers that have just a bunch of iPhone pictures on their website as their portfolio. And I think clients will see that and go, okay, I'm gonna, I'll probably get what I pay for. And hopefully they're turning down renovations. I'm taking on bigger projects now. I'm doing like larger renovation projects, working with builders, working with GCs. And so I don't think that there's a lot of competition um, or like clients even coming to me with that. Um, but I will have to educate them on images. Oh, we love this, we want to do this. Well, you don't have that condition in your house. We can't do that because we don't have a transition here. We don't have this. You don't have that ceiling height. It's not going to be the same. So that's where like the educating part comes in again, and that's what's so valuable about having an interior designer who studied design and knows when to say yes and no rather than somebody who is just a decorator that's taking on more than they can chew and saying, "Yeah, that's going to look awesome." And then they're like, ooh, we didn't realize that we couldn't do that. Or like, putting like a floating sink in an existing bathroom. Like, you got to rip that whole wall out to put blocking in. So I think that they all probably like quickly realize that it's a lot harder than it looks. There's a
Yeah,
lot,
no,
you know?
yeah, I think you're spot on. I think too, there's a difference between, I'm letting personal preference is letting the influencers maintain the title of influencer
Yeah.
versus, and I think the age of the influencer is about up. I think it's going away, and I think it's going away because the influencer tells you how great they are and how all these products lead to what a great lifestyle they live. And influential will tell you, which I think is what every really talented designer and architect is,
Hmm.
will tell you, here's how great your life is, and
Yeah.
here's what you need to make it even better. And here's how you need to surround yourself. I think that's the difference. But at the same time, and I want to go get the way back machine and go back to 2018 when you were at Home Polish.
Hmm.
And I remember when Home Polish first came out, and I kind of, I don't think it's a bad thing. I really don't. It's like, you know what? And this is a terrible example because I'm not a big fan of social media, but I think it's a good example as it relates to social media.
Yeah.
MySpace, without MySpace, there would be no Instagram.
Hmm.
Without Vine, there would be no Facebook, or YouTube was the starter, but YouTube is completely different now than it was when it first got started, right?
Hmm.
Without those that came first, and now we're at the precipice of this next iteration, which is AI.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I want your take on how you view this incredibly valuable tool versus job killer versus job changer. And I will just back up and repeat something that I've said on the show before numerous times. I was having a conversation a while ago with a designer. It was a group, and I was talking about AI, and this one designer, and I've heard this before, but this one designer was like, I'm not worried about AI taking my clients from me because my clients love me, and word of mouth is the number one source for new business and new clients and this and that, and word of mouth, and AI is never going to take my clients. It's like, no, AI is not going to replace you. The designer that knows how to work with AI is going to replace you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's a big change coming. How do you future proof?
Yeah. I haven't really gotten into any AI yet. Um, Only just like I've asked it, I'm like, can you put this fabric on this ottoman? And then it's like, no. Or it's like, absolutely, I can do that. I can totally do that. And then they send you a picture and you're like, that is not the fabric or the ottoman. That's insane. But I'll also just only have like, I don't, so I am living in this little Delulu world where my clients are really happy. I'm really happy. I'm still doing things old school, but I'm also being really smart. I know it's there. I'm prepared to learn, and I am prepared to use it. I'm excited to use it. I don't want to be like, let's say my daughter decides she wants to be a designer. Um, she's 5. Let's say she decides she wants to be a designer in 20 years. Like, I I would love to be one of those, you know, I don't want to say it's not really a senior. I mean, I guess you're a senior when you're 60. Um, I want to know what she's doing. I want to be able to speak the language. It's possible, as long as you're just like staying on top of things and you're learning as these upgrades are happening in our lives. I don't want it to just hit me in the face one day. So I'm aware. I'm cautiously aware of it. I'm not using it because I really enjoy my process. It has changed a little bit. Like, I used to make my mood boards on what's that? Photoshop. I can't even remember what it's called.
Like Canva?
It's kind of like Canva, but it's the Photoshop version of it. It's like the, presentation maker, not PowerPoint. Um, so I use that, and now we use Canva, and we love Canva. It's honestly amazing. Like the AI background remover tool is great. We're not using any AI images, because they're all just like super cheesy right now. But I think that they will develop, they have to. They have to. So I I'm not afraid of it. I still get a little like icked when I see it, especially like, vendors that I really love to use. They're starting to use AI for like ads, and I'm like, ooh, why? Why now? Yeah, we're not, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for it. Um, so I'm open to it. I'm I know that it's going to be a thing that clients might be expecting within a few years, like maybe I think we're talking more like 5 years, like where clients are going to be expecting it. You think sooner they're going to be
Oh,
expecting it? Yeah.
I think I think you could have said 5 years ago. You could have said 5 years, 3 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think within the next, as fast as it's developing,
Yeah.
think about it this way. And it's interesting. I took a course through MIT in 22 about machine learning and AI, and what was because I wanted to understand what it is, and
Hmm.
I think what people don't realize about AI is it's not it's not providing new information. There is no God chip. Like it's not realizing and creativizing itself, right?
Hmm.
It's not creating new things. It's taking what's from the past and
Hmm.
reprocessing it and thinking about it differently. Imagine if you if there was an app that one of your clients could put on their iWatch or on their iPhone. I say the watch because you wear it, right? Or if there was something different, like in the near future, I imagine that there's going to be something, if you wear your watch on your left wrist, that there's going to be something else on your right wrist.
Hmm.
So that it can get a feel for what you do and are you ambidextrous, are you right-handed, left-handed, and how you operate. Imagine that you could take a program for your client, right? And you could just let them live for 2 weeks
Hmm.
and it will track them. It will, and I know it seems a little spooky, and it kind of is, but
Hmm.
it will track how often they turn on a light switch and which light switches they turn on and how many steps they take from the stove to the refrigerator and the refrigerator to the sink and how often they let the dog out and where the dog lives and where the kids come in and out and do they use the garage door, do they use the back door, the side door, front door.
Hmm.
They go to bed on average every night at 9:45 or 10:15 or I mean, just you're getting the media that they're exposed to. You're really understanding. Imagine if you could understand how your client lives. So then, after 2 weeks, you have the official onboarding with your
Hmm.
client, and you hear them tell you all the things that are aspirational to them, but none of which is real.
Oh, true. Totally. It's funny when you ask them, how do you live? What do you do? You get like the 10% version, or the version they believe. Um, I mean, that you explaining all of that right and left wrist thing, I'm like, oh my God, I think a lot of my clients would not want to do it. They'd be like, that's too invasive. I don't want to do that. I think it makes sense, like maybe not for a designer, but like a, FF&E designer, but like an architect who's building a home could be an architect who's designing a home and saying, if you wear this for 2 weeks, we could design the perfect home for you. Especially like people with disabilities. Imagine if it's, like I have a client right now who has Parkinson's, and I had to like guess how he's walking around his house, to design rugs so that he wouldn't trip. That was really, like taking on that task for me was scary. I got my rug guy involved. I'm like, you got to come to this guy's house. I can't do this on my own. I don't, and then we're suggesting thin rugs, but like it maybe if he was wearing something on his wrist and then my rug guy and I were able to like see his paths and like where, what he or the speed that he's walking. Is he dragging his feet? It actually would be valuable information to have. So I think like in cases like that, maybe as a starter, but then when people are more comfortable with devices like that, then, like I was saying, 5 years, people would be like a little more open to it, you know?
Do you know what's funny though? So you have an iWatch on.
Yeah.
You're already doing that. No, I'm
Yeah.
serious. Like
Right.
if you look under the health app that's in
Yeah.
your watch, it will tell you about it will tell you about your
Right.
pace. It will
Right.
tell you about your pace and it will tell you if you're shuffling your feet. It will tell you so much about how you live already that it's not a matter of if people are ready for it, because chances are if you have one of these, if you have a phone, you're already doing it. We've been using AI for 10 years, 15 years now
Right.
through Google and other search. I mean, we've been using it. If you've been on Facebook, you've been using it
Yeah.
for over a decade.
Right.
The interesting thing is, I think it will also, when properly used, and I want your take on this, when properly used, it will also eliminate the uncomfortable budget conversation.
Mhm.
I think our industry is no different than any other sales organization or industry. But we do a terrible job when it comes to budgets because we ask our clients, I'm not a designer, I'm not an architect, I'm not asking anybody what their budget is. But as a designer, you're asking your clients what their budget is. To be perfectly honest with you, it doesn't matter what their budget is. It really doesn't. The budget is absolutely immaterial to the work because if they want X and they have a budget for Y,
Mhm.
they're not getting X. So it doesn't really matter. If you say
Right.
to them, how much is your budget for the kitchen? And they say, well, we have a budget of $100,000. And you say, well, what do you want? Oh, gosh, we want the, paneled Sub-Zero with the Wolf, the 48, the 60, right? And we want a wine column and we want drawers and we want the in cabinetry coffee machine and we want so guess what, you're not getting it. That's
Right.
not going to happen. It doesn't matter what you want. What I think would be interesting is conversely, could you imagine a scenario where you went to clients who have been doing this for 2 weeks and you said, here's how you live. Here's how the family lives.
Mhm.
Here's the kitchen that you want because it fits your lifestyle. And, we can talk about fit and finish, but here's what fits your lifestyle. And it's X. If
Mhm.
you told them what the budget was, based on what their needs are, would that be easier?
Yeah, I usually do. I when we have the budget conversation, I always know that they're holding their cards here, and I'm just coming in with the, reality. Um, but I usually say, do you have like a hard budget? Have you thought about what you want to spend on this? And they usually are like, well, we thought about it and I guess we don't really we have a budget, but we don't really know what it is. Or they're like, yeah, don't go over 300K, like don't go for like the whole house, don't go over 300K. And I'm like, all right, cool. We can do that. We build the budget, so I basically like I take their budget that they have, if they have one, and then we do our own budget spreadsheet. And then we send that over to them. And there's usually like, a low mid, a mid high, and a target. So that's how we like to do it. So we like to do like, and if they have a low budget, then we do the low mid as their low budget, and then we have a target. The target can't really be their low budget because then they start seeing all these low numbers in the low range and they're like, oh, let's hit some of those. But it usually ends up being a blend and everybody goes over budget. If they say they have a budget, they always
Do,
go over.
do
So,
you think they go over budget because there is a disparity in reality?
I just think that they don't, yeah, I mean, for sure, but I think that it's mainly to do with they don't know what pricing really looks like. They're not educated enough to come up with a budget. Especially now with tariffs, like nobody knows anymore. Even I'm like I'm nervous to come up with budget numbers because I'm giving a budget number based on like, a range, but I don't know if we're eventually going to land on a piece that's coming from Brazil that has a 30% tariff on it. So I actually put that into my contract, that we're not responsible for tariff increases and what they'll do to, furniture budgets.
I don't even know. I don't understand how anyone can put a budget together for a client. I was recently speaking with you mentioned Brazil. I was
Mhm.
talking to a Brazilian company that can't bring their furniture. They don't have any furniture to sell anymore. We're into this for, just about a year.
Yeah,
They literally don't have any stock anymore here in the US because what they did was they were smart. They saw what was coming.
yeah.
They front ran all the tariffs and they built this huge stockpile of furnishings here in the US. So they had everything on hand prior to tariff application.
Hmm.
And guess what? Over the last year, they've been selling it off.
Yeah.
And they've been
Good.
selling, and now they're at the point where it's like we don't have any inventory anymore. Everything's gone. We've sold it off the showroom floor. We don't have it. We're not. There are no ships on the water. There are no. There's no inventory on the water.
Yeah.
It's we're done. And it's like, what do you mean you're done? It's like, yeah, we're done for now. We're still a company. We have an empty showroom and we have an empty. How do you manage that?
Not even worth it. Well, you know what I heard the other day, which was really wild, and I'm just making an assumption here, but I think my assumption is true. So I was at a stone yard, and quartzite comes from Brazil. I mean, a ton of quartzite is in Brazil, and everybody wants quartzite because it's not, it's heat resistant. It's somewhat stain and etching resistant to a degree, more than marble, and it's more affordable than marble. So a lot of it comes from Brazil. And we were asking at the stone yard what would be the tariff on a piece like this because they said, oh, we have more coming in. They said, oh, it gets finished in Italy, and so you're only paying the Italian tariff on it. I was like, wow, Brazil is sending their stuff to Italy to eventually get it to us for a lower tariff. So it's possible that, these countries are coming up with these agreements where we'll send it to you, we'll sell it to you, you sell it to the US with a 13% tariff or whatever theirs is. And you'll make some money and we'll make some money. Our business doesn't have to close. You'll be making money, but you'll be helping us out because you don't have quartzite. We have quartzite. So, I mean, it definitely, that's more of a commodity, right? Like, um, marble and stone is is part of the earth. So it's not like they're sending a furniture piece that they can make in Italy to the US. But they're sending something that they cannot get anywhere else. They're helping them out. So I thought that that was really interesting. Um, Prices
This,
have obviously increased, but
yeah. So this time has just absolutely flown by. It's crazy. Uh, but I have one last question for
yeah.
you. You and I are recording this in December of 25. And so
Mhm.
this will come out around first, in first quarter of 26.
Yeah.
If you had to break out the crystal ball and define what you're excited about, what you're nervous about, how the business of design is going to be affected and what's going to change and what the strength or weakness is going to be in 2026.
Mhm.
What are some of the factors that are going to change, that are going to affect you next year?
Oof, this is tough. So let's talk about the things I'm excited about first. Let's start with the positive. So, we were talking about AI, and I know AI has so many abilities, like things that I don't even know how it could help my company. Like it could probably help me with procurement. It could probably help me, with I know it can help me with budgeting projects out. Um, but I'm actually curious to see how it might be able to help our business with procurement. Now, that's something that I need to have major control over because these are items that we're purchasing for clients. But if there's a way for it to help with purchasing, that's something that I'd be excited about learning more on. Um, and renderings. Renderings I have seen in the last year that they're becoming more and more affordable. And they're really great ways for us to show our clients how their room is going to look. So I'm excited about the future of like renderings and how they'll be more attainable to designers rather than having to pay $500 per rendering. Maybe we're only paying like $100 per rendering. And a lot of designers who can't afford to shoot projects or say, I can't shoot this project, but I can put this rendering up on my Instagram, get people really excited about watching this project unfold. I think it's deceiving when somebody puts up a rendering and doesn't say it's a rendering. That's absolutely terrible. But you say, like, I put up a post like a few months ago of a project that we're completing now of three different renderings. It's like, okay, pick which rendering you would love. And it got so many hits and people just loved interacting with it. So I'm excited about the future of like renderings and I'd love to get more projects rendered so that clients can see them, my my following can see them, I can see them and get really excited and also feel more comfortable about what I'm, proposing. So those are the things I'm excited about. Obviously, just like expanding my business is another thing, but that has nothing to do with AI. But things are heading in a good direction and I'm excited about it. Um, Things that I'm not excited about, um, you know, the decline of quality that I mean, we have seen that's been going on for a long time, but it's just now it's actually like hitting pieces that are expensive. So now even expensive pieces are lacking quality. And as someone who grew up with a designer mother who was buying like joinery furniture and showing me how incredible pieces were because of this and that, um, were it's sad to see pieces that we purchased for like, $6,000 and it's like it's coming in pieces. So I'm not excited for the future of like the quality of furniture. Obviously, I'm not excited about tariffs, but I feel like that it's going to be one of those things where we're all like in 5 years, we're like, oh my God, remember when we were all so worried about that and nothing actually happened? I don't know. I'm hoping that's me feeling hopeful. Um, but yeah, and also like, just how social media is changing things. It's funny, like as a designer, my For You page where I like, doom scroll, it actually like has nothing to do with design because I just like I don't even want to see it. So it's funny that my algorithm is not really design related. It's more like, current events, funny things that I like to unwind and watch. But I think, yeah, my algo might not know I'm a designer. And I like that because I like to read magazines and all that. So, but yeah, I'm not excited about, social and obviously like the future with my kids and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, yes, I get that. At the same time, if one could fill their scroll with Rico the porcupine videos from the Cincinnati Zoo, then we're good.
That's what I'm talking about. That's my for you. I'm like I actually feel like I'm getting away with murder. I love it. They definitely they throw me some DIY videos here and there, home resets, things like that, but like I'm not getting a lot of interior design stuff and I like that because then I can be authentically myself, right? It's like I'm not being influenced by these other designers. Although I have a list of like designers who I absolutely love, but they're all in hardcover, so
Yeah, the only thing I will tell you, and I'm going to make a suggestion. This is the only suggestion I'm going to make next to Rico. That's not a suggestion. That's a demand. Like everyone should have Rico the porcupine on there. But
who's that?
there's a guy on Instagram who does. My wife sent this to me. Who does this show called "Fuck This House," and it is the
I'm
funniest.
writing it.
It is the funny. This guy is hilarious. He should have a TV show. He really should. If HGTV really wants next gen superstars, go find the guy that's fucked this house, and I'm telling you, it is hilarious.
Oh my God.
It's amazing.
I want to be a guest on that show.
No guests, no guests, no
Oh,
guests. All he does is walk around and talk about what a disaster his house is and
yeah, yeah.
everything that goes wrong with it. It's hilarious.
Oh, his house. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I want to do that with like fuck this architecture. I want to walk around my town and start a new one. And just like, crap on all the new builds going up.
Oh, it's greatness. It's greatness. Well, listen, this has
Of
been so much fun. I am so appreciative for the time. Amy, thank you for making the time today. I really appreciate it.
course. We'll do a phase two and talk about home
Oh,
polish.
you know it.
We never got
Absolutely.
there. Yeah,
Absolutely. 100%.
I would love to.
I love that. Amy, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts and expertise. Thank you to my incredible partner sponsors, Pacific Sales, Kitchen and Home, TimberTech, the AZEC Company, Best Buy, and Design Hardware. Their sponsorship of Convo by Design allows me to seek out sublime design, the stories from beyond the work itself, and showcase unique personalities, chasing new ideas, and changing the way we think about design and architecture. And I present it to you, so please give them an opportunity on your next project. Thank you for listening and sharing this journey of ours. 2026 marks 13 years of constant publication and over 700 interviews. I appreciate you. Thanks for being there for the ride, because I wouldn't want to do it without you. Please keep those guest suggestions coming, as well as thoughts on where you would like to see Convo by Design record in the future. Convo by Design at Outlook.com and on Instagram at Convo by Design with an X. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, be well, stay focused and driven so you can rise above the chaos.